to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
One of the most important aspects of running a convention is the sponsors, and Multiverse is lucky to have some really good ones. And tonight, we spend the entire hour with one of them, Inked Publishing, and their owner and founder, Kevin A. Davis. Kevin is also a fantasy author himself and a bookstore owner, and we'll get into all of that tonight, as well as what Inked has going on that might be something you would all be interested in partaking in, as we turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to Spotlight on the Multiverse. I am Joe Compton. And yes, I have Kevin A. Davis with me. I'm so excited because we're going to spend the whole hour together and talking all kinds of different things about his stuff, Inked Publishing stuff, all the stuff that involves Multiverse and everything like that. I mean, I gave a little bit of an intro there, Kevin, but I always love to start the show by allowing you to pontificate a little bit more on who you are and what you do. So tell everybody a little bit more about yourself.
All right. My books, I love to write a wide variety of genre. Right now, I have 3 series in the contemporary fantasy. I like to imagine what would it be like if magic was happening right around us and we had no idea, and what it would look like behind the scenes. So that's where I sort of go. Paranormal Procedural is my latest series, so that's been fun because I get to do sort of a Criminal Minds supernatural mashup. Multiverse, one of my as soon as I went there, was one of my favorite cons, and we had started up already with David Farland. I was working with him at Apex, as far as a mentor, and I had talked to him about doing anthologies. So we were already doing anthologies, in our bit. And so when we first were going to Multiverse, I'm like, I love this. It's, my people. I love the inclusivity. You hear about it a lot, and like I do, like Jordan Con, which is nearby, and they're real good about making sure people are safe, and that's great. And there's a lot of cons that aren't. I won't go into them, but where you hear stories about a guest was a little inappropriate in their language, and everyone sort of like tried to just smooth it over and make sure that but you have to understand, and the understanding is he's a guest, and you don't intend to lose that, and you care less about the people. What I loved was when they were Multiverse was Ali and Jesse were like pitching some what they were doing, and I started to get the concept that if someone had a problem with someone else's something, they were the problem, and it was over. There was no but they're a guest, or they're this or that. It's just not allowed. It can't happen. And I was like, that is truly the focus that I love. I love knowing that people are safe. So Multiverse became a major thing for Inked Pub. So that was our original glide over. Now we have a ton of anthologies coming out of Inked Pub. We added a 7th this year. So we've been springing up on that. So that's our Kevin A. Davis does writing stuff, and the Inked Pub does the publishing stuff, and why we love Multiverse.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. I think last year we talked a little bit about how you got involved with Multiverse and how, what Inked does as far as sponsors go and things of that nature, and vending and all that. I am curious though, because I think this year is very unique for all of us, even the ones who've been there several times, who've been there from the beginning, everybody, because it is a new location, it is a new expectation. There is a lot going on that's different about this year than any other year. And I'm curious, are you preparing any differently for this year because of the new location and what is going on?
Yeah, one of the first we started this off last year and we had a blast. We did a contest for Multiversians, short story contest, and it doesn't go into an anthology. It doesn't do anything. You get the awards, and we did a little cash prize and some, my wife makes very unique, eclectic kind of jewelry, fashion, accessories, other stuff. But she also makes like D&D dice, because if you can, you might as well, with little dragons and all that. So we did that, and so that was part of the prizes. And then this year, we have pretty much the same thing we were planning, and we still have, we have that open. That's on. Check out the the Multiverse page, and you find the link that goes to the secret page on Inked Pub that tells you how to do it. But you only can get to it from Multiverse and Multiversians. But this year, then I saw they were popping up with these really cool, I love the con suite. I absolutely love the con suite, but sometimes, you do pop out for a meal or do a little bit extra. So they had this whole weekend meal thing, that included all kinds of stuff. And I was like, that is so cool. People really need to, jump on that if they can. It's money, sometimes you're just stringing by, getting the last thing out, and con suite's it. That's, you hit the bar and it's like a glass of water, but I saw this, some people are going to be able to take advantage of that. And I thought it was great. So I was like, talked to Jesse, went back and forth a little bit. And I was like, listen, I'd love to throw that into the prize package because I want to highlight that, because that is, a really cool option to, turn around and have the, some nice hotel meals, some drinks, they have a couple different options there. If you get up onto Multiverse's page under the, shopping store, you can get all these different options for, I want to, have the wine and dine kind of thing, or just want the food. There's all kinds of options up there. And I thought this is a great thing, so yes, we threw that into our bundle of what we're going to give away. So we're going to, I think, me and Vanessa have been talking about, and Jesse have been talking about getting us probably during the opening ceremonies, do a quick bit for that piece, to give once we, get, submissions in. And on that, we're still looking for plenty of submissions. We just love to slush through short stories because they're so much fun. You're surprised what gems you find. You also get some rough stuff. We did a piece, where we're asking for like explicit romance, and we're very clear on this, yes, there can be, BDSM, but it has to be consent. Right. And so we end up, because it's a very iffy area, they have to be very clear about. So and we still got people who did not read the guidelines. But when we do the Multiverse piece, it's free form. We're just having fun. There's no selecting for the anthology. It's just like, what can we read? So we're still looking for, stories. If people have them out there, we're looking for short stories for the contest. It's a simple piece. We read it, we pick some people, we give out some prizes, and it's not getting printed. So it doesn't matter if it's under print somewhere, it's not getting published. If it's been printed somewhere, it reprints. It's not like it's a anthology where we're looking for, this is the first bite at the apple. This is just for fun. We're having a blast reading the stuff and coming up and picking the winners. So we'd love to have, people, jump in on that. And if you go, Jesse's pumped it a bunch of times up there, that it exists. So if you sort of do a little bit of a search for like Inked Pub hashtag or something on Multiverse page, you'll probably, come right up with it. But that was one of the things we're doing. I don't know whether me and my wife do a lot of Klingon cosplay. So we managed to, our ship, or her ship, really, I'm basically, I've been abducted, I believe. I've never signed up. But I'm still with it, end up with a ship. But we're a diverse group.
Yeah.
So when we started talking, we were like, we should meet up. And I'm like, it's got to be Multiverse because everyone's going to be safe and feel comfortable there. We did lose one member, he died off a little while back, but we do believe his husband's coming out. The widow's coming out to Multiverse, we're going to try again, but we have the whole let's get together and do our ship thing.
Yeah.
And April did crafting with Klingons, which was phenomenal. A couple Klingons helping out everyone fold up little hedgehog books, kind of stuff. So we love it. So we're probably going to keep up with a lot of that stuff if we can. But mainly what we want to do is highlight some of the new options that that are available for people at the new hotel, and we're dying to see it. We've gotten little glimpses, and we're just waiting, to get a good view before we say, "Hey, can we do this next year?"
Yeah, that's part of it, right? It is a little bit of trial and tribulation. You kind of working through it. I've actually been through the hotel, and
Nice.
I've walked it, and it's very interesting. And I agree with you. We've also here on this show been highlighting a lot of the packages and stuff like that. I think it's fantastic what the hotel. I think what is really apparent right off the bat is the hotel is very eager to have all of us joining them, and they're being a part of this as opposed to just being a host. They're really taking on the hosting duties a lot more seriously than any other hotel has done at any other con that I've seen. And sans Dragon Con, but usually Dragon Con just runs itself, so it's like they just get out of the way. Usually the West End places just get out of the way, but this is an opportunity for growth, and I think both parties share that sentiment. So I think that's kind of a nice kismet there. And I love the short story contest. Is there a word count for people who might be interested? Have you established one yet for that?
Yeah, we did, and of course you asked me a question. I don't remember.
I think it's 5, is it not? 3 to 5.
I mean, we usually our low side is tends to be on the 2 side, just because we're you
don't want to read the absorbent amount of big stories. Yeah.
But on the large side, we tend to go 2 for minimum, just so that people can get enough of a get enough of a movement. But then we jump into thing. I'm pulling up the page now. I get to the page by going to Multiverse. It's great.
Yeah. Multiversecon.org, everybody.
And then I do the Facebook page. So the word limit on this one is 2 to 8, because again, we're not publishing it, so it's not like we, would be worried about having, a whole bunch of, just our, 8,000 word, pieces, and you only end up with 8 authors,
Yeah.
So that's one reason why we do 2 to 6, 2 to 7, 2 to 8, is to get a variety in it. But in the case of a contest, it's just our reading time, and we have a whole bunch of fabulous readers. Always can use more. So if you're looking for slush reading and want to have fun, let me know when you see me at the convention. I'm glad to pull you in, because we run horror, we run all kinds of different varieties, and because of that, there's some people that are like, I pass on the horror.
Yeah.
Explicit romance was sort of a some people were like, oh, everything, and other people are like, I'm gonna pass. So we're fine with that. That's one of the things of this. Is just we're doing this. The people who are reading are passionate readers, and so they're looking for for fun new experiences in reading. Yeah. And so we have people from Jordan Con, people from other conventions that I've met that have just joined in and has been part of it. Yeah. So for this part, it's just all reading. We're all reading. We do a little rubric, and then we come back and look at the scores and sort of go back and look at the top 3. I'll usually get with like a couple of the editors and say, would you look at these, and then get their feedback on it, and then we come back up with, okay, here's our top people. Yeah. So it really is more fun than it is about we need to make this fit into a store, into an anthology, which really does have a different feel to it. This is anything goes. Send us your stuff. We do ask, and we put it in the guidelines, that you sort of attune to the tone of Multiverse. Being respectful to otherness, so that you're not we all have biases. Mine I used to say I was biased against people with briefcases because I hated the rich. But it's still a bias, so you have to look at that, so there's things in your life that that you might not see, and you have to be compassionate and respectful on that. And so we do ask, we're rather clear about it. We basically use a lot of their code of conduct as being, this is the kind of stories that we would find appropriate, saying, hey, we, with permission of Multiverse, give thumbs up on this, because we're not doing a Multiverse contest without Multiverse.
Yeah.
Okay. It's sort of a joint effort here. So we want to make sure that those are tied in. That there's people are respectful and other such, which is easy enough to do.
This is right up your alley, Nikki Nelson Hicks. Nikki Nelson Hicks is going to be a first-time Multiversian this year. Yes, and she's here. So this is right up your alley. So go to the page and check it out, Nikki. I think you really will have some good stories to submit to this. So
that's what we love to see, and it's just fun to sit there and give someone, a first place award for their story. It's like we surprised the winner last year, just because we were she really didn't have that expectation, that that was really going to happen. It was Ellie Rain, and she was like, me, really? I had asked her. I said, "Can you make sure? Are you going to be at the contest? The award thing?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I got something going on, but I'll get there a little bit late." And I'm like, "Okay, we would still announce her, but it was so much nicer to have her there, because when she would call her, she's like, "Really, me?" And I was like, "Yeah, and you get that feeling when you get an award. There's a sense of like, are you really sure? Because we all have that little,
Yeah, and so also word of advice to everybody who submits to this contest: you want to be at the opening ceremonies, because that's where they're going to give out the big prize. So everybody, so you make a plan to be at the opening ceremonies. You should be there anyway, because it's a really good time. But I understand why people are just getting in and commuting in, and they don't get there in time or whatever. But I will say that that's a really good way to start your Multiverse experience, is the opening ceremonies, and this year it's going to be bigger and better, bolder as well. So because of the new space and everything, so definitely be there for that if you did submit a story, because you never know. Like Kevin just said, you could be the winner, and
you could
have free meals all weekend long because you won. So.
Yes. Which I'm sure you can share a plate with your friend if you just have
right.
But
it is a buffet, so they do the buffet thing there. So
maybe not sharing. Okay.
Yeah.
The whole opening ceremony piece is where you get to really, get a sense of not only how the, what the tone and what the, the culture is, but they might, that's when the last minute stuff hits. We're like, oh hey, we've decided to do this on Friday night. Don't forget, because setting up the convention, Joe knows, going in as a guest, you make a lot of plans on getting things done, then someone drops out and something has to get shifted over, and those little movements can suddenly be like, oh look, we've got a new opportunity. Or you get in there and you find like, well, we really used this room and it's actually huge. Let's have Joe do something in here, or something, where you're like, and that's literally like planned on Thursday night and you hear about it Friday. So getting to those opening ceremonies can really give you a good view of what you can expect for the weekend. And it sets a tone, because you start seeing all the people, and you're hanging out with someone on your row, and all of a sudden you're like, that's your new con buddy for the week.
Yeah. And last year they surprised me. Even they said really nice things about me, and Ali jumped in and said really nice things about me, and that was really cool. So, it's really, it's just a great experience. And like you said, I think something unique that Multiverse does in the opening ceremonies that I haven't experienced in other opening ceremonies, Con Carolinas and Jordan Con, I've been to those opening ceremonies, but they introduce you to every track director and every person involved with what they're involved with. And so you get a sense of who you need to talk to when you go to this thing. And you'll know exactly who to schmooze with if you want to get on a panel, or if somebody drops out, or if you want to, if you need some help with something, the right person to go to. They do a very good job of laying all that out.
Yep.
Nikki, it's multiverse.con, multiversecon.org, and then just click on the Inked Publishing sponsorship, and you'll find it. It'll be there.
What I did was because I had to find out the numbers here for Joe, so I ran over to the Facebook page.
Oh yeah,
and then I just did a quick search contest.
Yeah,
and then it pumped up and it shows you the the link for the page. And that got me through those I was able to get right into all the information I needed. But
I'll message you the Facebook group, Nikki, and then you can go into there and join it and everything. So because you are a guest, so you have access to it. So Jesse's here. Hello, Jesse. Nice to see you. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the opening ceremonies, Jesse. So yeah, please chime in the chat if you have something to add to it. But yeah, I mean, there is so much. There's just. I really think Multiverse is a quite unique experience, and I think for somebody who vends at Multiverse, and you vend at a ton of cons, you do a lot of You're about to do Congregate. You're going to do a bunch of these this year. Dragon Con. Do you vend at Dragon Con?
I help over Jennifer Lang over in High Fantasy.
Okay.
So what I do over there is I volunteer for the room because I have been doing that for a while. But then I also get to do some panels.
Yeah.
So I get to do High Fantasy, which I read pretty widely and I watch pretty widely. But I will say High Fantasy has always been one of my strongest areas. I mean, sci-fi I'm fairly well embedded in as well, so I'm pretty wide, but High Fantasy definitely fits my bit, especially if we jump into Sanderson. We had some great panels, Tress of the Emerald Sea, all that stuff we went on last year. And with the Dragon Con, the structure, because there's so many tracks, it's easy for like over urban fantasy we'll get focused on Buffy or something, and you can really drill down into stuff. So I enjoy that. So High Fantasy is what I do presently.
Nice.
Over there, so I do enjoy it. But it's always been also a place I always went just to be part of the writing group that's over there. It's just such a great way to meet people that I don't see all year long. I only see them at Dragon Con, really.
And you jump into panels at Multiverse as well. You've done some panels there as well.
Yeah. I apply as a guest as well. In the last 2 years, they've taken me on, which I of course love because I get a chance to. I mean, I was sitting with friends doing a shipping panel. On fandoms, so it's just fun stuff, which is, for me, that's really part of it. Is I'm not really, like a science teacher kind of personality. I just want to joke around a little bit, but actually discuss the topic and have fun. So if we can find good groups are like that. I've had some partners that I've done like Conquest where we were dragged into panels that people abandoned. We didn't even know the topic. And we looked at the topic, we went through, and then we just had a good time, and the audience got to react with us. And we had no moderator or questions. We were just going back and forth on it. And it's the fun, but the topic at the same time is just one of the best things. So I really enjoy. Of course, I'll always enjoy, being on panels at Multiverse just because it's my.
It's such a unique crowded experience.
It is. You look out in the audience, and it's the nerds just like me, but not like me. So I get to have all of that, and I love it. So.
And they're so vocal. It's kind of just like getting together with a bunch of friends or making some new friends and talking. It's not there's structure to it, and don't get me wrong, there is a panel structure to it, but it feels so much more like an experience than a panel oftentimes when I've been on panels at Multiverse.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites, obviously. I mean, as soon as I really I sort of circled around right after the pandemic, like, are they really real about this, or are they just saying it? Is this a marketing strategy? And then when I realized it really was inclusive, and I felt safe.
Yeah,
it was like, okay, I want to be a part of this in every way I can. So
it's so funny because the first panel I ever went to at Multiverse was the girls' rule panel, and I'm the one guy in the room because I was so enamored with it. I went to I went to like 3 of the events on the online version of Multiverse. That's how I got involved with Multiverse, and then the girls' rule panel was something that I saw online, and then went to that one that they do every year, and it was very cool, and it was just something interesting about it, and that I was being, not only was I being heard, but I was listening to some really great conversations and discussions. I go, is this how all the panels are? And lo and behold, this is how all the panels are. It's really cool. Yeah. It's a really unique experience.
Yeah, and I love the fact that we have, a wide, diverse crowd. I mean, I've been to, I've been to a lot of cons. I go to a lot. Okay, I do about 20 events a year.
Yeah.
So between cons and Comic-Cons, the Comic-Con kind of stuff, but nonetheless, I've been to some that I questioned sort of my life choices sometimes, because I've been there and I realize it's military sci-fi, very military sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I really, I have female protagonists that are, have agency, and it's really not the same group.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I still had some good panels in the whole bit. Most of the guests and clientele were a lot of Vietnam War vets, kind of thing. Yeah. So I'm like, I was that hippie protester that they were worried about. So, I'm, doing my bit. And then I found out that, like within a sub-rhythm, there's always that group. And so when I set up my table, where they had like signing times, set up my table, I was like, I had all these people coming to me because I was the other.
Yeah.
Okay. I was the, and they wanted that because they weren't really into the military sci-fi. My poor wife went, and she says, if I hear one more story, one more war story that takes 20 minutes to tell me, I'm just going to, push someone over.
Yeah.
And so, I've been to different types, and I, not all of them, I know a lot of, myself and others might not feel safe.
Yeah.
Okay. In my state, pretty much people ignore me, just the way I look. But it could be it could be uncomfortable for a lot of people. So having some place that is born and built to be comfortable and be safe is so unique and pure. And I love it. So yeah, for me, this was always, I already feel relaxed when I'm there, so that everything's easier, everything's better.
I'm curious from your perspective too. You're putting out a lot more anthologies now. You're doing a lot more, and you're diversifying into different genres often with your anthologies. Has that been a spark from Multiverse? Did Multiverse kind of spark that for you guys a little bit? Did you feel like when you were doing the short story contest, that kind of has that ever happened where you did like a short story contest, you go, this might be an interesting topic for an anthology or something to that effect?
So there was a discussion that happened at the last Multiverse with Mandy Burkett. And I focus on editorial guidance for an anthology, because you want to have a flavor to it. And we were talking back and forth, and so we had this conversation going, and then finally I was like, it would be wonderful to have an anthology that is specifically queer, specifically focused on protagonists and main characters that identified, rather than the side character or the friend concept. And we know there's authors out there doing this and making it, but does the new writer feel like they can do that, or do they have to sort of, are they, is there no place for their stories? And if so, can we make a place? So we sat and talked about it, and that's when we came up with this concept. I went through a whole bunch of my community and asked for some feedback, and that's where we ended up with Yay All Queer. And then that cover was done for Yay All Queer by Sienna Buchanan, because she's in one of my writing groups, and Yay Lesbians in Space, and and she had done this piece, and it had these beautiful cherry blossoms, and I was like, we're going to need a cover for Yale Queer. We had already been talking about it, and I was like, it would be really cool if it was, had some, pinks and whites and blues, and and we were going back and forth, and I was like, so would you want to do that? I said, it's a paid job, you get paid for your work, and she's like, most definitely. Now this is a college student who's probably 19 now.
Yeah.
Kind of moving on 20, and we're also in a similar fandom of Sanderson, Dragon Steel. We do that, but she's an arc reader. So we have all these, pieces in common. So we work real well together. So she was like, yes, I'll do it. So that cover came out of our discussions once, me and Mandy had lined up on the Yale Queer. Now we're still looking for plenty of submissions, with the submit when you're not asking for dragons, and you're asking for people to get more specific, your submissions, your open call takes more. So sure. We're still looking strong for stories. We have some. We want more, because I want to be able to go to Mandy with stories that we've slashed through and risen to the top group for her to pick from, and that's our normal way with it. But yes, that's one of our, we're very excited to have that come up, and part of it is because we do have a safe place to promote it. We can bring it up to Multiverse and know that we aren't gonna, I have on my Inkpub page, we're in Pride Month, so I have a bookstore that's called Common Ground Books, and it's in Tallahassee. It's an hour away, so I go there. People, we've done cons together, music cons, we're right next to each other, and we've talked. And so they put up a post the other day, and I shared it, on Inkpub. It's not because we actually have a relationship with them. It's just I have a relationship with them. So sure. So they got some space, here, read about them. And, I wrote some things on the top, and there's a map that you can get that shows where, people in the community own businesses. And so that you can support LGBTQ+, awesome. By looking at this map and going places. And I had some guy, post on there, and unfollow in the comments. And it took everything I had to be a businessman and just not say anything, because it was part of me that was like wanting to either, thank the man, thank you for, if that's your space, then you're in the wrong space. Mm. Or say anything, and I'm like, this is this person's, life choices or, patterns, and me starting a spatter argument on the page over his belief systems. It's not going to change anything. Yeah. And it would just maybe even give him more focus. So I left his little comment, and away we went. But everyone else was like, like, because, a lot of the people who support Inkpub, are, either ally or community. Yeah. And so it's not like we have a lot of, we don't have a lot of, military sci-fi Vietnam vets that are doing the bit. And, obviously that's generalization on itself. I'm joking because of, fantasy, but, they aren't upset because some con is too woke now. Yeah. These are people who are looking toward the future. So we're really excited because Multiverse is a place that we can share to, that we know that it's going to get a positive reaction. Sure. From the membership. So yeah.
Yeah, everybody go check it out. And I'll keep promoting it and trying to get people to go there every time I do this show. But Jesse says this is what I'm talking about: doing the work, the extra steps to make people feel safe and seen and valued. And F Mister Unfollow. Let them select out, and good riddance. Absolutely.
It was so hard not to say that kind of stuff, Jesse, on his post, but I was like, we're not gonna feed that. We're gonna let him take the.
That's what he wanted. He wants you to feed that. That's
Right.
what he wanted. He wanted to start a discontent in there,
Right.
and disruption.
And I believe me, I've never seen the guy's name before. Okay, because we just don't draw those kind of people. We don't draw that. We don't. We tend to draw the opposite. So most of everyone exactly.
Yeah, I did something similar on my group page on Facebook. We had we were talking about pronouns and pronouncing pronouns and allowing people to do that. And we lost some people, members of our community. It was kind of interesting that they self-identified themselves and did that. But hey, look, I'm just going to do what's right, and you go be whatever you want to be, do what you believe, do what you want, but you're just not going to do it here. It's just not going to be the way,
Yeah. And if they're going to do that, there's a potential they're going to harm people I care about.
Yep, absolutely.
Because I may not be on that page when they decide to, go. I don't care what they say about me. Feel free.
Yeah, I don't care either. Yeah, that's the thing. Right?
So, but someone who is fragile and open for a moment, and all of a sudden someone like that comes along and takes a tear at them. I don't want them on the page. So self-select is perfect. If it bothers you, by all means. There's so much Facebook out there for you, buddy. All day long, okay.
Yeah, Jesse says we always knew we'd get pushback, and we welcome it. What's right is right, and we want people to join the multiverse community who understand that. Absolutely, and it's part of the mission of Multiverse, and it's why Multiverse is amongst the favorites of a lot of people's con. There are a lot of people, and those who don't make it a favorite. Hey, you experienced it. We appreciate you coming and experiencing it. If you kept an open mind and you experienced it and you were welcomed in, great. If you found it wasn't for you, all right. Nice to know you. It's the community. I think one of the coolest things about Multiverse, Kevin, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's when you find your space, when you find the people that embrace this and really come together with it. It's not only just like a boulder off your shoulders, but it's a comfort level that you feel like you're home, right?
Yeah.
And that's such a unique thing about Multiverse.
It is so hard to find places that you feel safe.
Yeah.
Most of your life is sort of spent building up the defenses, on certain levels, and you come here and it's like you're secure in the knowledge that that if someone has issues with someone else, over who they are, okay, that there's going to be a strong support to help you on that. Whereas in a lot of places, you're not sure that you may just what exact kind of crowd you might be in, that either they just turn away and leave you to your own, or join in. So here where you stand, and it's stated clearly, and that's needed, because there's so many people, like I said, mentioned earlier, people do give lip service to it, but then when it comes down to it, but the guest is really important. And you're like, but the guest is a lecherous, and you need to protect people from him. And so that was my experience. Was there's a few cases where I've seen people protected, but most of the time it was the guest that was protected, because they had some importance. My wife has some people that she knows in the circuit down here that she's like, I can't stand going to the same cons with these people because I know what they've done. And they're still there. Where you're like, okay, I guess they're important. And I just, I can guarantee you, I don't care who it is, but if they pulled it in front of Jesse and Allie, they're not getting away with it. I don't care who they are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we're a family, and that's what it's about. So it's part of what you get when you belong to the multiverse community. So let's talk about you, my friend, because we've spent a lot of time talking about. We've talked a little bit about Ink and the bookstore, but let's talk about you and your writing, because you're in an interesting. I don't want to say transition, but you're in an interesting pivot for yourself, and putting out the DRC files and bringing that out into the world, and how's that experience been for you? And talk a little bit about it. Tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing right now with this.
All right. I write in a lot of genres, but I've been mainly focused on publishing on this one. So I have full novels and series, or partial series in other genres. But the urban fantasy, has a high read through on KENP. I market into a lot of conventions like Coastal Magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reader-centric con, with people like Alana Andrews and that. So there's a very genre sensation to it. So it's nice to have a very distinct, product to put in front of them. And DRC has been fun because they're 24, 48-hour episodes. So
it's a really great concept. I really, when I read it, I go, "Ooh, this is neat."
So you have this fast-paced, kind of team, Criminal Minds piece, with characters that I kept as pretty diverse, and I can go pretty much everywhere and do all kinds of of aspects of where I want to go. I was in Daytona for Coastal Magic last February, so I think book 5, I'm ahead of my editor, so I'm waiting for her to go through. But book 5 is set at the opening, the little bit of horror bit, of the grisly bit in the beginning, is set in a drive-through church. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah,
I drove around this drive-through church, on Sunday while they were doing their bit, because they're between two streets, and I'm just driving around peeking. So I'm like this weird lurker, my poor wife has gone through some really weird places with me, and I'm like, just act like we belong here. We'll be fine. And she's like, we really don't belong here. I said, I know, but they know. Come on. I just need a picture of this back of this building. So I'm driving around this place, and it was just so unique that I needed it for a setting. So then I've gotten internal and all this, bits of it, what it's like. So they have this pulpit. There's a 2-story building, and they have a pulpit, and there's some priests, reverends standing out on it. They have cameras on them, and
is it multi-dominated? God, I can't say the word. Dominational, is it different?
I don't know what the exact denomination is, but they use reverend and pastor for their concept. So I'm assuming some sort of Protestant,
Yeah, probably one's Baptist, one's Protestant, probably kind of idea. It's
so when you drive in, that's where you the tip jar or the tithe, and you get your program, and you go when you pull up and you put it on your radio. And so there's all these cars parked out front and everything. So of course I had the choir sits behind, and they have a camera for them.
Mm-hmm.
They sit in their air conditioning behind, I guess, if you make the big bucks, you stand on the porch. So they're doing the choir is just sitting behind and the whole bit. So I got all that set up, and then of course I have them doing their bit, and the commotion starting up in the background, because I have someone who's is supposed to be a drawer, but it gets revealed later on. But comes running through and tosses one of the reverends off the thing and jumps down and does the whole bit, because I needed that that moment of horror going through, so that they later, that's what they can investigate. So yeah, I love going to places. I was at I forget what kind. It might have been Congregate. I think it was Congregate one year, and I walked across the street, and they had this lovely, conference center right across the street. And again, my poor wife. It is not closed, but there's nothing going on there. There's no events. Um, and I just stroll in. I go down the escalator. I go to the back because I'm thinking it would be best if it was in this back area here. I walk into the back room because the door's open, and I'm looking around, and I start taking pictures of the back room of their thing where one of my murders or my assassination is going to happen. And my wife is just looking around like, someday, someone's not going to be appreciative of this. But I can get away with a lot because I can also at the last turn flip the author card and say, I'm just here researching for a story, and they'll be like, well, that's weird, but doesn't seem too bad. Maybe I'll let them go. And the wife seems nice and scared. So anyway, that was one setting for one of my DRCs that are coming up. So I'm having a blast. David has been one of my darling characters, one of the things that people like is snarky trickster vampire. But I haven't given a lot of details because he keeps it close to the vest.
Yeah.
I got to go to book 4 is in New Orleans because we have a rogue vampire, and there's a lot of vampire families, of course. It's New Orleans. If I'm going to do vampires, I have to do New Orleans. So I did the New Orleans bit, and I got to really, sort of out some of his background. Who liked him, who doesn't, and all of the things. So I'm having a good time with DRC. It really has been fun. Since they're short, I can write those, fairly quickly.
Sure.
And so I'm also working. I'm hoping to tie in because I have full fantasy and sci-fi written, but I really no place to put them because it really isn't like And while you're buying your urban fantasy, here's the near future sci-fi that I have going on.
Right.
When you get to like 50, 60 books, it'll be different, but I'm on, 15. So, so right now I still want a solid mass of, if you like the urban fantasy, you got plenty to read through. But I am working on a YA shifter romance, and I'm actually working, there's a class that was on here with a YA, writer that I like, so I'm like, yeah, I want to see what she has to say. So I'm looking at a little bit of polish on this opening. For this, I got 2 books in. It's dystopian, so I get to use modern day contemporary fantasy, but it is a younger protagonist, and it is more focused on the romance. Being still very cute, not spicy. Focus so that I can move into that. That's something that could be on the table adjacent that would seem within the realm.
Are we talking kind of like a romantasy kind of jumping on that train a little bit?
To a certain extent, most romantasy is a little bit spicier than where I'm going.
True.
Okay, so
this is more of a cozy.
It stays very cozy. Part of the whole problem is, he can't hold himself from being a werewolf if he gets passionate. So I get to play this really horrible trick against my, 2 lovers, in which they can't get close to each other without him turning into a wolf. Okay, so it's really I get to play with that, pretty heavily. So anyway, that's one of the projects I have going on. I also am doing, and that's partially a collaboration, and I'm doing another collaboration that's totally off the market. I don't know where we're ever going to put this thing, but it's with a friend that I'm just having a blast doing, and it is a contemporary in 1968. Okay. St. Louis, and it's a detective agency, so I'm getting to work more on the mystery details.
Kind of a noirish kind of aspect.
Not too noir. I mean, we both can write there because we've done short stories in that vein, but we're going for a little more on the comedy side of it. And so I'm looking forward to that being far enough along that we're going to express more about it. But I have no idea what we're going to do with this thing. So maybe we're going to have to find someone to take it and publish it because it just doesn't sit really perfect, too close to my. I mean, I got a golem in there, and there's a werecat, but there's not a lot of magic, So we definitely, are on the same spectrum, but just at a farther distance on it. So got a lot going on right now that I'm having a blast with. And we just opened up a new anthology for dragons because Abe Balsamo was like, I don't get enough dragons in my stories.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're talking about what's coming up.
House of Dragons.
Yes. Okay. And we're like, that's coming up. I'm looking forward to seeing that again. Not one of my, it's not like Rings or kind of is for me, but it was still fun. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Like seeing the the bit and the dragons and all that stuff. And she said, we don't get enough dragons. I was like, you're right, we don't. And we can fix that. You know how we fix that? And she's like, oh. I said, we do a whole anthology on dragons. So got her to brainstorm some ideas for titles, and then went to one of the people we use for covers, and I was like, I need a really quick dragon.
And you're doing a spicy anthology too, right?
Yes,
Did you just close the submissions on that one?
Yeah, they're slushing now. They've gone through, and like I said, that was one of the more difficult ones. I mean, I had some people who really broke the.
There's a lot. Yeah,
okay, because
there's a definite line.
They didn't. A lot of people don't read the guidelines.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that right now. And I deal with that. I'm pretty easy with it. If you don't get. If you're not 12 font or this, I really don't care too much. What I do care is if you're actually on theme.
Yeah.
So I would tend to read a lot of the openings, and I did some searches through, and then I sit to filter out some things. I had non-consent, like page 1. I mean, like the guy probably thought it was, really, whatever on his side, but it definitely does not fill the readdership. The readership, there is a readership for that, and we're not going to be aiming for that. Okay, we're looking for, consent-based. It can be gameplay, all that stuff, anything they want to go. Okay, but it had to be that piece. So that's been our more difficult one. We've definitely had, some that were off theme, but sometimes in some cases, I mean, I've had infanticide, which actually led to me putting no infanticide. I didn't think we needed to put it, but okay. And it is my personal preference, and in some cases, it's the editors. Like this is being done by 2 editors. Brenda Cawthorn is a explicit romance writer, mainly male, mainly cryptid, fun stuff. I mean, her detractors are like, this is bestiality. I'm like, not when it's all consenting and they're sort of human and beast, at different points. Mm-hmm. So anyway, she is the person who is focused on that one, with Heather Norris is helping out because of her more of it's one of her passions, but she also her grammar is a higher piece, so they're merging together to co-author that. So that one's going to be interesting. Probably not going to be throwing that all over the table at Multiverse, but maybe I'll try to keep a couple under the table just in case people ask.
Sure. Will you have the new corporeal one out at Multiverse as well? You have that one. Yep. That one just dropped, right? So
we just shipped. I've set up a spot over in my office. I'm running out of space in the house. And if I take too much of the foyer, my wife is going to kill me. But yeah, we just shipped out. The last was some of the authoring ones, which I just needed slipcases for the boxes. So I got those out to the authors, and we're pretty much fulfilled on that one. I got a couple addresses that I'm still waiting for people on. And right behind it is coming Behind the Shadows, which is real popular on the tables. There's a couple authors that sell at the cons, and because of the bright coloring of the horror, we end up, they're like, I need another case, because they'll sell those, but it brings people to the tables to see they might only have 2 books or 3 books. So then they see the wide range, and they see the horror, and it fits their element. And so they use it not only for sales, but also just to attract, which I love. So we tried to keep within the theme on this year's cover, which we were able to do. We got a great combination of one artist, and he showed me a couple stock photos, and I require like the stock IDs now, because I have to go into Adobe or the other stock groups and make sure that they're not using AI to create the stock image.
Yeah.
Such a
It is, yeah. I'm doing my shows, and when I'm editing my shows and going through images that I want to use for the shows, that I have accounts with deposit
Yeah,
photos and everything like that. But they're using AI, and it's very difficult to discern it even.
yeah, yeah,
But for groups like that, one of the saving graces is that they distinguish it as AI for you, so
yeah,
you
yeah.
you can navigate through that. But some of them they don't, because they don't know, and you have to look out for certain things about that. It's very interesting,
Yeah.
the navigating that you have to do now for
One of the things I found was if you find whoever produced the image, and let's
yeah,
say
you source it.
they forgot to tag it,
Yeah,
okay, as AI, because when you go and you look at all the pictures of them, when they see their whole body of work, you can
yeah,
tell it's AI. Whereas
yeah,
we get another guy, and you can tell that this guy does a lot of Photoshop work off of existing, images that he distorts and creates things with.
yeah,
Or this guy is a painter, and they have sketches as well, and they have illustrations which all match their style. So I have to literally go all the way back to the source sometimes,
yeah,
look at all of the things they offer, and and then I'll be like, dude, that's all AI.
yeah.
Okay, and then I have to jump on.
Yeah, AF Stewart says, yeah, the AI on stock sites is terrible. I've made a list of non-AI artists. Yeah, that's a good way to do it too.
Now there's a for people who are looking for art. There's a group called Artists and Clients. If you use N instead of in between artists
Mm,
clients, artistandclients.com, dedicated, dedicated to making sure that
that's
every artist on
fantastic.
there, every artist on there. So it's like a lot of the other sites, but these guys, their
Mhm.
focus was dedication to, non AI.
That's
Um,
awesome. Everybody go check that out. I'm gonna check that out. That's pretty awesome.
someone pitched me over there. So I use a lot of them I love, what do you call it, art? Character art.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm an old D&D, so it's like, we used to make
Yeah.
little horrible sketches of our own. And this
Yeah.
way I can have my character, my book stand alive. And
Yeah.
sometimes that makes all the difference for me to really envision that person.
I um I have definitely set aside budget this year for the art show specifically,
Yeah.
because I was so in love with so many things that were going on there, and
Okay.
I could only buy one last year because I budgeted it out, and I was like, I'm budgeting this year. I'm going to get one from every artist that I really liked last year. Hopefully
Nice.
they're all coming back. But yeah, the art there is amazing at Multiverse. But
It's a blast.
mhm. Jesse says if it hasn't been mentioned yet, Multiverse has a strict no AI policy on both art and writing that's sold and promoted at the con. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. We definitely need to mention that. You know, we're coming up on it, and there's just so much more I wanted to talk to you about. Because it's awesome. But we'll have you on again when you do some more stuff. We'll do a we'll I'll get with you. We'll do a spotlight on all the DRC stuff because I just find it fascinating. And I think it's a really cool thing you're doing. Um, I am curious though. One last question before we go, and we'll go over if we have to on this. But I'm interested in, because you as an artist yourself are branching out into different genres. You don't hold yourself to a genre. You are experimenting, collaborating, and doing other different genres. Are you finding that diversification in genre is an important aspect of selling as well, and putting stuff out there for inked? Are you feeling like it is not as prevalent to be labeled anymore as it maybe have been 5 years ago?
Um, One of the things when you're selling, you're slowly selling stories. You're slowly building up people who like your voice.
Hmm.
And they usually have, like me and my wife have a very wide, genre.
Yeah,
We own a haunted bookstore, and we fill it full of books,
yeah,
um, and we read a lot of those. So that's our thing. But when our, when you're, but not everyone is like that. Some people only read this and only buy this and only with that. They're very thin. So when you're building that list of people who want to find out what you're coming out with next, if you're too far off,
yeah. They won't come back.
well, they're sort of like, okay, I'm not interested, and they
Yeah,
might forget you for a while, which is fine.
Yeah.
But if you do that, if that's all you do, it's more difficult to gain a base of followers than it is otherwise. Which is why the sci-fi never came out. I love it. It's a like a near future. Maybe someday I'll
We
put it
talked about this last year.
I'll put it in with someone else who's doing it, and
Yeah.
then and that'll go that run, and it can be on my website, but will it be on the table? Maybe way over on the side, but just not my main focus. So
Yeah.
for me, your fandom really dictates sort of what you're trying to show out there, but I still have to write it.
Yeah.
It just means it may not get published or it may not be on my table.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to. Short stories are a great way for me to experiment, by the way. I can do all kinds of crazy stuff.
I agree.
Wrote some crazy stuff this year, and I can't wait to get it out.
Yeah, I did my first. I've been. It's funny because in my film life, I did a lot of horror stuff. I was doing a lot of horror films and things of that nature, and I was working on a lot of horror film. But I had never written anything published for horror, and I got my first novella short story coming out in a horror anthology. So it's kind of like that was a really unique experience for me. So that's kind of, I totally understand what you're talking about there. It's a great way to experiment and put out there.
It is. Try all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you here for the entire hour. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know it's really late for you. And I just think it's been a fantastic conversation. Tell everybody where they can find all the lovely stuff you're doing and in publishing. And if they want to visit the bookstore, if they're in the area, tell everybody about that a little bit too.
All right. So our haunted bookstore is in Madison, Florida. We actually had paranormal investigators out there to come, because we had some strange things going on. We're pretty sure. Name's Amanda. She loves to read. She's fine with us. She's happy. Inkedpub.com for all things ink publishing. Kevin Arthur Davis .com for all things Kevin Arthur Davis. And they sort of merge together back and forth. And thank you, Jesse, for making something worth sponsoring.
Absolutely. I agree. 100%. And thank you, sir, for taking the time with us and joining us. Hey, everybody. That's our show for this week. We'll be back on Monday with another spotlight on the multiverse. We've got another couple great guests for you. Some really great stuff we're going to be talking about, and I can't wait. We're going to be talking about the Learn Track on Monday, which is really awesome. I'm real excited about that. We have the Learn Track director with us as part of that group. So that's awesome. And as always, we'll be talking about Inked Publishing as well, because they are a sponsor. We love promoting their stuff and what they're doing and how everything they're doing out there. And everybody, remember, it's always time to go indie now. We'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.